You wake up early. You do your job. You pay your bills on time. You avoid stupid decisions, unnecessary risks, and anything that might set you back. From the outside, it looks solid, responsible, even admirable. And yet, nothing really changes. Same routine, same results, different day, same quiet feeling that you're somehow stuck in place, just doing it very efficiently. It's almost impressive, actually. You manage to build a life where nothing goes terribly wrong, and nothing meaningfully moves forward either. Because here's the uncomfortable thought. What if the problem isn't that you're doing something wrong, but that you're doing everything right? What if the very habits you trust to move you forward are the same ones keeping you exactly where you are? And if that's true, then how do you fix something that looks correct in every possible way? You try to be responsible, not in a dramatic way, just consistently. You save part of your income. You avoid unnecessary expenses. You think twice before making decisions. You follow advice that sounds reasonable, proven, safe. You build routines. You stick to them. You show up even when you don't feel like it. And to be fair, this is exactly what people tell you to do. This is what gets rewarded. Be disciplined. Be patient. Don't take risks you can't control. Play it smart. So you do. And over time, it starts to feel like you're on the right path. Not exciting, maybe, but correct. Predictable. Stable. There's a certain comfort in that. You know what to expect. You're not constantly dealing with chaos or uncertainty. Things don't fall apart. But they also don't really evolve. And that's where the strange part creeps in. Because underneath that stability, there's a quiet frustration. Not loud enough to alarm you, but persistent enough to notice. Life feels organized, but oddly unchanged. You're doing what's expected. You're avoiding obvious mistakes. Nothing is technically wrong, which makes it harder to question. Because if everything looks right on the surface, why does it feel like you're just maintaining instead of moving? Here's where things stop making sense. You were told that if you do things right, you move forward. Effort leads to progress. Discipline leads to growth. That's the deal. But in practice, something else happens. You do everything right and end up in the same place, just more efficiently. The effort is real. The consistency is real. But the outcome? It's mostly maintenance. Your finances don't collapse, but they don't expand much either. Your career stays stable, but rarely stretches. Your life becomes easier to manage, not necessarily better to live. It's a strange trade. You get predictability in exchange for momentum, and the expected reward never fully shows up. Not the kind that changes your trajectory, not the kind that opens new doors. So you adjust. You try to optimize, be more consistent, more disciplined, which sounds logical, until you realize you're applying more pressure to the same system that's keeping you in place. That's the contradiction. The correct path isn't failing you. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It keeps things stable, controlled, sustainable. But forward? Not really. The problem isn't that doing the right thing doesn't work. It works exactly as intended, just not for what you think. Most of the behaviors you've been taught to trust are designed to prevent loss, not to create gain. Save money so you don't run out. Avoid risk so you don't fall behind. Stay consistent so nothing breaks. It's a system built around protection, and protection is useful. It keeps your life from collapsing. It smooths out chaos. It makes things manageable. But protection has a side effect. It limits how far things can move. Because growth doesn't come from avoiding downside alone. It comes from exposure to uncertainty, from stepping into outcomes you can't fully predict or control. And that's exactly what the correct path tries to minimize. Think about it. Predictable behavior leads to predictable results. Predictable results reinforce the same behavior. Over time, everything stabilizes into a narrow range where nothing extreme happens, no big losses, but also no meaningful leaps. This is why stability gets rewarded. It's easy to measure, easy to manage, easy to trust. Systems, institutions, even social expectations all lean in that direction. Consistency looks like progress, even when it's just repetition with better organization. So if you feel stuck, it's not because you're failing. It's because you've been optimizing for a system that was never designed to move you forward, only to keep you exactly where you can be controlled and predicted. To understand why this keeps happening, you need to see the loop. Not the obvious one, but the invisible pattern underneath your decisions, the one that feels responsible, logical, and quietly keeps everything the same. It starts with what looks like a smart move: safe action selection. You choose options with predictable outcomes. You pick the stable job over the uncertain one. You save instead of investing. You stick to what you understand, what you can control, what won't surprise you. And again, this sounds reasonable. It is reasonable. But every safe choice comes with a hidden limit. The downside is smaller, but so is the upside. You're not just reducing risk, you're also capping how much things can improve. Then comes the second part: stable feedback reinforcement. Because your actions are predictable, the results are predictable too. Nothing breaks, nothing spikes. Your life stays within a controlled range. And this consistency feels like progress. It feels like things are working. After all, you're not going backwards. But you're not really going forward either. You're confirming the same level, over and over again. And then the final piece locks it in place. Psychological reward loop. Stability creates a sense of control. You feel responsible, capable, safe. There's no chaos to manage, no major mistakes to recover from. That feeling is rewarding. Subtly, but powerfully. So your brain takes note. It learns that these choices lead to comfort, to order, to predictability. And it nudges you to repeat them. Not because they lead to growth, but because they avoid discomfort. Now put it all together. You choose safe actions. Those actions produce stable results. Those results reinforce the same behavior. And the loop continues. Safe choices lead to predictable outcomes. Predictable outcomes lead to no real change. No change leads to repeating the same choices. Over time, this becomes your default operating system. You don't question it because it looks like responsibility. It feels like discipline. It gets social approval. But underneath all that, it's just maintenance. A well-managed version of staying in the same place. Let's make this less abstract. Take someone who does the right thing with money. They save consistently. Every month, no excuses. They avoid debt, avoid impulsive spending, avoid anything that feels financially risky. Years go by. The balance grows, slowly, safely, but not significantly. Not in a way that changes their life. Because saving protects money. It doesn't multiply it in any meaningful way. Now compare that to someone who still saves but also invests. Not recklessly, just with exposure to uncertainty. Some years are better, some worse. It feels less stable. But over time, the trajectory is different. Not smooth, but upward. Same effort, different relationship with risk, completely different outcome. Or look at careers. One person stays in the same role for years. They're reliable, consistent, easy to trust. They get small raises, predictable feedback, steady expectations. Nothing goes wrong. But nothing really expands either. Another person moves roles every few years. They take positions they're not fully ready for. They deal with uncertainty, new environments, occasional setbacks. It's less comfortable, less predictable. But their skills grow faster. Their income tends to jump, not creep. Their options widen over time. Again, not because they work harder, because they accept instability as part of progress. And then there's opportunity itself. How many times have you ignored something because it felt uncertain? A project, a move, a conversation, an idea that didn't come with guarantees. It's easy to justify. It doesn't look safe, it might not work, it could waste time. So you pass, and nothing bad happens, but nothing new happens either. That's the part most people miss. Avoiding risk doesn't remove danger, it just removes variation. And without variation, there's no real chance for change. So you end up with two paths. One is stable, controlled, predictable. It protects what you already have. The other is uneven, sometimes uncomfortable, occasionally messy, but it creates the possibility for something more. The difference isn't effort, it's exposure. The longer you stay in this loop, the more it starts to shape how you see yourself. At first, it's just behavior. You choose safe options because they make sense. But over time, it becomes identity. You become the careful one, the reliable one. the person who doesn't take unnecessary risks. And that sounds like a compliment. It usually is. But it comes with a quiet side effect. You start filtering opportunities not by potential, but by how well they fit your need for stability. If something feels uncertain, it doesn't just look risky. It feels wrong, out of character. So you avoid it automatically. This is where comfort turns into dependency. Not comfort as in relaxation, but comfort as in familiarity. Predictability becomes your baseline, and anything outside of it feels exaggerated, even when it isn't. And the longer you stay there, the harder it gets to step out. Because now you're not just risking an outcome, you're challenging your own identity. Meanwhile, something else is happening in the background. Quietly. Missed opportunities start to compound, not in an obvious way. There's no clear moment where you can point and say, that was the mistake. It's more subtle than that. It's the accumulation of paths not taken, decisions postponed, risks declined. And over time, that creates a different kind of cost. Not loss from failure, but loss from repetition. Years pass and everything still works. Your life is stable, manageable. But when you zoom out, the trajectory looks almost flat. That's the real danger of the loop. In the short term, it feels safe. In the long term, it quietly limits everything you could have become. So here's the truth that usually gets ignored. Doing things right is not the same as moving forward. You weren't wrong for being disciplined, careful, consistent. Those traits kept your life stable. They prevented a lot of problems you'll never even notice. But stability and progress are not the same goal. Stability protects what you have. Progress requires changing what you have. And change doesn't come from repeating the same safe patterns more efficiently. It comes from stepping outside of them, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. That's the missing piece. Not more effort, not better habits in the same direction, but intentional discomfort. The kind that introduces variation, the kind that breaks predictability just enough to create new outcomes. Risk in this context isn't recklessness, it's exposure. It's allowing results that aren't fully controlled, because that's where movement actually happens. So if you feel stuck, it doesn't mean you've been doing everything wrong. It means you've been doing only one side of what works. You mastered stability. Now you need to decide if you're willing to trade a bit of that certainty for the possibility of something more. Take a moment and look at one habit in your life that feels correct. Ask yourself if it's protecting you, or quietly keeping things the same. If this gave you a new perspective, like the video and share it with someone who might be stuck in the same loop. And if you want more insights like this, subscribe to the channel.